Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about lessons or just things that I learned talking for hours and hours and hours with strangers in a foreign language. Now, this thing that I've learned can be applied to any language. It doesn't have to be talking in a foreign language or talking in English or whatever. I think these things that I learned really applies to conversation and social skills in all levels and all degrees and whatever way you can measure it, because there's a lot of stuff that I think that I learned per se that I wasn't really quite able to grasp previously, and I think it's a huge step up from my conversational abilities from before. And before we get into the video, yes, I know my hair is growing longer and longer, it's growing uglier and uglier, and my face kind of looks like it's been bitten all over the place, which is true. There have been a lot of bugs in my house lately, and so I've been getting a lot of bites on my face, which is why there's splotches of red everywhere. I apologize for that. But yeah, just if you're wondering why my face is like with red spots all over, that's why. So anyways, let's get into the video. I don't want to bore you any longer. Let's get straight into the first thing that I learned, which is the more people you talk with and have conversations with, the more comfortable you become with having more conversations with people. And now this kind of sounds like common sense, but if you really think about it, like how many times during your day or throughout, the years, do you have the opportunity to talk with other people and have like conversations? Because usually the only times you have conversations with strangers is maybe like at a bar or at a restaurant or talking with like waiting staff and people like that. Those conversations usually last only between seconds to a couple minutes. And so having actual conversations with more people every day allowed me to really stretch that amount of comfortableness that I had originally and make me more comfortable with just striking up conversations with other people. And that kind of leads into the second point, or the second thing that I learned, which is being able to strike up conversations with other people that I don't know more easily. And this one was something that I really felt like I had a huge issue with before I just started this experiment to see like how things would turn out if I talked to more strangers. Because it kind of like sounds like a weird thing, talking with strangers online. I know that, at least for me personally, I was taught from a young age that you shouldn't really talk to strangers because they will kidnap you and take you with candy and shove you into a car and drive away. But so far I think talking with strangers, or at least talking with strangers through an app that guarantees your privacy and safety, is a rather good way to build up connections here and there that you might not have expected at first. And what I found was that the more conversations I struck up with people, the more quickly and more easily I was able to do it. Previously, I'd probably just try to not really talk to people, because if you haven't watched my very first video, which I put out almost like 10 months ago or something, I am an introvert, and I've been trying to increase my capability, interaction, my sociability with people through making videos, but also through doing little experiments that I use to make videos. And so I definitely think my confidence in going up to other people and also just talking with random people has given me this resilience, because I think at first when I had the issues with the introvertedness, trying to not really talk with other people, is maybe the possibility of being rejected, like not having the ability to actually strike a conversation and just, saying hi and attempting to make conversation but actually failing. And so I think it was that fear of failure that prevented me from talking a lot and trying to make little talk with other people that I might not know. Now, moving on to the third point, or the third thing that I learned, was that the more you talk with people, the more conversations you have, the more broad your topic kind of answer bank becomes. Because when you talk with people, you really want to have conversations that don't just end with ums, yes, nos, or whatever. You want to actually talk with the other person. You want to get to know them, you want to understand them more so that the connection becomes more genuine. Because when you have an authentic conversation with somebody, there's nothing worse than that. Having a superficial conversation with somebody is never something that you want to have, because it just ends poorly, it goes nowhere, you waste your time, they waste their time, it never works out for either party. But having a meaningful conversation where you actually exchange value from one person to the other is super important. That's where the value of having a huge variety of topics to talk about comes in handy, because the more topics you can talk about, the more topics you might find in common with each other, and the more value you'll be able to provide to each other. Number 4 was the ability to have longer deeper and more meaningful conversations with other people. Because I think previously I only called people like periodically. I wouldn't really have long conversations. I wouldn't even have middle length conversations with anybody. It would just be literally maybe 5 minutes at most, 10 minutes at the maximum. I think that was. There wasn't enough things to talk about. There wasn't enough interesting things going on in conversation. We'd check up on each other and then hang up, and then maybe in 10 months or something we'd call each other again. There wasn't meat in the conversation. There wasn't anything to keep it going, and I really had no skills in maintaining a conversation with even people I knew, let alone people that I didn't know. And so by having more conversations with other people, some of them would only be about 7 to 10 minutes, some of them would even be 5 seconds or so if they decided to hang up quickly. But 3 or 4 of them actually ended up turning into 1 to 2 to 2.5 hour long conversations. And within that span of time, there's a lot of things that can be talked about, and hence there's a lot more deep connections that can be made between you and the other person. And so for me, at least, I actually made a couple of friends through talking with strangers on this app called Goodnight, which I use, and I was just trying it out because I saw it recommended by some YouTubers who were making a video on it, and I'm also making a YouTube video on it. But anyways, the concept is pretty simple. The app works like this. You don't even have to make an account. You just put in your name and you can just start chatting with people from all over the world. And it's kind of set up in a way so that you don't know who they are, they don't know who you are, and it's kind of like you start off on the even level. Basically, you only hear each other's voices. That's the only thing you know about each other, and so that kind of allows for a level of anonymity, but also providing a phone call experience that I think really works in some situations. Obviously, it's not going to work in all situations. I've done, I don't know, at least 100 of these calls, and only 3 or 4 of them turned out to be like actual meaningful conversations. But 3 or 4 out of 100 is still very good because it still allowed me to really get out of my comfort zone, practice my conversation skills, and obtain meaningful conversations. And so, for example, after those conversations, I was able to have more meaningful conversations and longer conversations with people that I also knew, not just strangers, but also people who I was already acquainted with. People who maybe I never called before, I'd call them up and then we'd suddenly be able to have an hour-long conversation. So yeah, those are just the things that I thought that I might share with everybody, because who knows, like if you're still stuck kind of like how I was in middling conversations and not really having meaningful conversations and not really knowing how to improve your ability and your skill and your practice, then maybe try out the app that I use. It's not sponsored obviously, but I just wanted to share it with everybody because it's really allowed me to become more proactive in adding a few more extroverted traits into my introverted character and to become more sociable, because that's definitely a skill that is required in the 21st century. So thank you again so much for watching. If you liked this video, go ahead and smash that like button, make it turn blue. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel down below if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below and we'll have a conversation down there. And once again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Ciao.